There's a chain on this list that spent years testing sunflower oil and calling it Greek olive oil. Another one has a health inspection record so bad that 1 out of every 5 of its graded locations in New York City carries a C. And the family-friendly diner at number 1? A federal lawsuit was filed against it 2 days after its owners quietly sold the whole company for $620 million. Somewhere in between, a private equity firm bought a seafood chain, sold the ground out from under it, and left the company paying rent on buildings it used to own outright. By the end of this video, you'll know all 13 restaurant chains to avoid, the 5 restaurants that actually earned your money, and why so many of these places share the same handful of owners. Let's go. Restaurant number 13, Cava. It looks like the healthy choice. Grain bowls, fresh herbs, a guy behind the counter who tells you the olive oil comes from a sommelier in Greece. That's the pitch, and it's worked. This is one of the fastest growing restaurant stocks in the country, riding the same wave that once carried Chipotle. Here's what a nonprofit called Toxin Free USA found when it actually tested that food. Pesticide residue, including glyphosate, in the cabbage slaw, the lentils, the pita, the rice. Independent lab work also found elevated levels of a chemical marker for PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals, in the packaging used for its grain and salad bowls. And that olive oil story? Read the label on the actual blend they use, and sunflower oil comes first, ahead of the olive oil, on the ingredient list. A Cava spokesperson confirmed the blend is used for operational viability and consistency. Meanwhile, one investigation found that 18% of Cava's graded New York City locations carry a C sanitation grade, more than 5 times the citywide average, with inspectors citing filth flies, blowflies, and eggs held at unsafe temperatures at more than one Manhattan location. Health inspectors don't grade on marketing. The bowl looks like a wellness routine. The paperwork tells a different story. Restaurant number 12, Domino's. You know the box, the 30 minutes or it's free era, the guy who shows up at your door in the rain. In April 2009, 2 employees at a North Carolina franchise filmed themselves contaminating food, sticking ingredients where they never should have been, and posted it to YouTube, saying it was headed to a real customer's door. It racked up more than 1 million views before anyone at corporate even saw it. To be fair to Domino's here, once they knew, they moved fast. They identified the employees within a day, contacted police and the health department, and posted their own response video calling it disgusting. Both employees were arrested on felony food tampering charges. The franchise location itself closed permanently a few months later. This wasn't corporate rot. It was 2 people who thought the internet was a joke, and a franchise system with almost no way to catch something like this before it happens. That's the actual lesson here. A delivery model built entirely on trust has very little oversight of what happens behind the counter, and a customer has no way to know until the video's already online. Restaurant number 11, Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. You've heard that slogan 1,000 times. On the box, in the jingle, on the side of the delivery car. Here's something you probably haven't heard. A federal court, in a lawsuit brought by Pizza Hut over that exact slogan, ruled it was legally puffery. An exaggerated opinion, not a factual claim about anything a company could be held to. A pizza chain can print the word better on every box it ever makes and never once have to prove it in court. And in 2015, Papa John's paid $12.3 million to settle a class action brought by roughly 19,000 delivery drivers, who said the company wasn't properly reimbursing them for gas and vehicle wear under federal labor law. 19,000 drivers. One settlement, quietly written off as a cost of doing business. The ingredients might genuinely be fine. The math behind the slogan never had to be. Restaurant number 10, Panda Express. Panda Restaurant Group was ordered to pay over $1 million in civil penalties, environmental costs, and fees after a coalition of 37 district attorneys and city attorneys found the company wasn't properly training staff to handle the carbon dioxide tanks that power its fountain drink systems across more than 500 California locations. That sounds minor until you understand what mishandled CO2 actually does. It can leak unnoticed and displace the oxygen in an enclosed space, which is a real safety risk for employees and customers alike. That's not a food quality issue sitting on a steam table. That's a life safety issue sitting quietly behind the soda machine, and it went unaddressed long enough that dozens of government attorneys had to get involved. Separately, Panda agreed to a $2.45 million settlement after a 2023 data breach exposed customers' social security numbers. The orange chicken is the least of what's being handled carelessly here. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't about scaring you off every meal. It's about the stuff they never put on the menu board. Hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like and share, because this list has 13 chains on it, and it's not getting shorter. Restaurant number 9, Dunkin'. A federal class action filed in California alleges Dunkin' charges lactose-intolerant customers and people with milk allergies up to $2.15 extra just to swap in a non-dairy milk, while offering free modifications, like sugar-free syrup, to customers managing diabetes or high blood pressure. The lawsuit argues that's disability discrimination under the ADA, since the company already accommodates other medical conditions at no charge. That case is still working through the courts. And on the sugar side, this part isn't an allegation, it's just arithmetic. By Dunkin's own published nutrition numbers, a large butter pecan swirl, or caramel creme frozen coffee, made with skim milk, contains 172 grams of sugar. The American Heart Association's recommended daily limit is 36 grams for men, 25 for women. One drink blows past a week's worth of guidance in a single cup. That's not a coffee. That's dessert wearing a lid and a cardboard sleeve. Restaurant number 8, Buffalo Wild Wings. A customer sued the chain in 2023, arguing its boneless wings are just chicken breast meat, and the name misleads people into thinking they're getting deboned wings. In early 2026, a federal judge threw the case out entirely, ruling that boneless wings is a term everyone already understands isn't a literal wing, the same way a hot dog isn't made of dog. Fair enough, that one's settled, and Buffalo Wild Wings won it cleanly. But it's worth knowing who actually owns the name on the sign while we're here. Buffalo Wild Wings is part of Inspire Brands, backed by Rourke Capital, the same private equity firm behind Sonic, Arby's, and Subway. 3 names you'll hear again before this list is over. The wings might be exactly what they say they are on the label. The ownership behind them almost never gets a mention on the menu, and it's the same handful of names showing up again and again. Drop the chain you're never going back to in the comments. I will read every one of them. Restaurant number 7, Panera Bread. In September 2022, a 21-year-old University of Pennsylvania student named Sarah Katz, who had a heart condition called long QT syndrome, drank a 30-ounce charged lemonade, a drink marketed as plant-based and clean, and displayed right next to Panera's non-caffeinated options, with no separate warning label on the dispenser. It contained 390 milligrams of caffeine, more than a Red Bull and a Monster combined, in something that looked and tasted like a fountain lemonade. She went into cardiac arrest hours later and died. A second wrongful death lawsuit followed the death of Dennis Brown, a 46-year-old man with a chromosomal condition, after he drank 3 of them. 2 more people separately sued, alleging the drink caused permanent heart injuries in adults with no prior conditions at all. Panera eventually moved the drink behind the counter, added caffeine warning signs, and pulled it from the menu nationwide in 2024. All 4 lawsuits were settled or dismissed by 2025, and Panera has denied wrongdoing in every court filing. The drink itself is gone now. The reason it was ever sitting self-serve next to lemonade, unmarked, next to a salad and sandwich menu, is still worth asking about. Restaurant number 6, Red Lobster. This one's less about food safety and more about what private equity actually does once it owns your favorite restaurant. And it's genuinely one of the wildest ownership stories in American dining. In 2014, Golden Gate Capital bought Red Lobster from Darden and almost immediately sold off the real estate under roughly 500 locations for $1.5 billion, pocketing the cash and locking Red Lobster into rising rent on buildings it used to own outright, forever. Thai Union, a seafood supplier, took a minority stake in 2016 and majority control by 2020, eventually installing its own interim CEO to run the company. Under that leadership, Endless Shrimp, historically a short seasonal promotion, became a permanent menu item in 2023, over internal objections, generated tens of millions of dollars in additional shrimp purchases from Thai Union itself, and helped drive an $11 million loss in a single quarter. Red Lobster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in May 2024, after defaulting on a $275 million loan, closing around 130 locations almost overnight. A creditor lawsuit, still ongoing as of this year, accuses Thai Union and former executives of squeezing the company for profit through that exact shrimp arrangement. Allegations that haven't been proven in court yet, but the paper trail is public. Nobody ate too much shrimp. The company ate its own ownership structure. Restaurant number 5, Olive Garden. In 2013, the FDA linked a multi-state cyclospora outbreak to prepackaged salads served at Olive Garden and Red Lobster. Over 466 people sick, at least 24 hospitalized, across 17 states, all traced back to a single supplier's farms in Mexico. In 2011, health officials in North Carolina advised an entire round of hepatitis A shots for anyone who'd eaten at a Fayetteville location after an infected employee was identified. Darden ended up settling by funding a $375,000 reimbursement pool for the shots. And in 2023, a Michigan man sued after he says he found what he believed was a rodent's foot in his minestrone soup, a claim Olive Garden disputes, pointing to a clean pest inspection days later. That one's contested and unresolved, so treat it as an allegation, not a fact. What isn't contested? Darden has around $29 million in tracked regulatory and legal penalties since the year 2000. Endless breadsticks. Not so endless oversight. Restaurant number 4. Chili's. Back in 2008, a class action alleged that Chili's guiltless menu, the whole line marketed as the lower-calorie, better-for-you option, had nutrition numbers that didn't actually match what was printed on the menu board. In 2020, Chili's parent company Brinker paid $150,000 to settle sexual harassment claims brought by 5 female employees. And this year, a Rosemont, Illinois location is being sued over the alleged firing of an assistant manager because of their gender identity, a case still working its way through the courts. To be fair, Brinker also won a separate harassment case in federal court in 2025, where a judge found the company had responded properly once it was notified, so this isn't a company that loses every case. But guiltless was never a legal promise. It turns out it wasn't always an accurate one either. Restaurant number 3, IHOP. Same parent company as our next chain, and we'll get to why that matters in a minute. In December 2025, a Baldwin Park, California location was shut down after inspectors found a widespread cockroach infestation. That wasn't its first time. The same location had already been closed once before, in September 2024, after a customer found a cockroach baked directly into the batter of a blueberry pancake. A Tampa, Florida IHOP racked up 13 violations in a single inspection, including live maggots inside a prep sink, a black mold-like substance in the ice machine, and raw breaded chicken stored directly over raw beef. And a South Carolina IHOP was permanently closed in 2025 after 11 consecutive C grades, including ham that had been held for 14 days past safe limits. Breakfast all day sounds great, until you learn how long some of that food's actually been sitting there. If you enjoy this video, do hit the subscribe button, like and share for more videos like this. Restaurant number 2, Applebee's. Same corporate parent as IHOP, Dine Brands owns both. In December 2024 alone, a Port St. Lucie, Florida location was cited for a live roach, rodent droppings, and a stop sale order on cold foods held at unsafe temperatures, while a Tampa location racked up 11 violations and needed 4 follow-up inspections before it was allowed to reopen. An Illinois location was shut down entirely after its coolers failed and spoiled everything inside, then had its license revoked after a second suspension within a year. Years earlier, a beef recall tied to E. coli concerns pulled product destined for Applebee's kitchens, and the company separately took a $2.3 million charge for meat that didn't meet its own internal standards. 2 different casual dining giants, 1 shared owner, and a strikingly similar list of health department visits. Restaurant number 1, Denny's. Grand Slams, the yellow sign, the diner that's open at 3 a.m. when nothing else is. In 1994, Denny's parent company settled a $54 million class action lawsuit after widespread reports that black customers were refused service, forced to prepay before eating, or seated last while white customers were served ahead of them. One of the largest race discrimination settlements in restaurant history at the time. That should have been the end of the story. It wasn't. In 2025, 5 black women filed a federal lawsuit alleging a Denny's location told them the restroom was closed for electrical issues, while white patrons were shown in and served normally minutes later. Here's the timing that makes this one land at number 1. That lawsuit was filed 2 days after Denny's announced it was being acquired and taken private in a $620 million deal. A 3-decade-old promise to do better, and a lawsuit alleging the same basic complaint, filed the same week the company changed hands. The diner's still open at 3 a.m. The question is whether anything actually changed behind the counter since 1994. And that brings us to something worth pausing on. Denny's just went private in a $620 million deal. Dine Brands owns both Applebee's and IHOP. 2 entries on this list, run by the same corporate parent. Darden used to own Red Lobster before selling it to private equity, and still owns Olive Garden today. Inspire Brands, backed by Roark Capital, owns Buffalo Wild Wings, and Roark also holds a minority stake in Culver's, which we'll get to on the safe list. What looks like choice on a strip mall, pancakes here, ribs there, a bowl of grains somewhere else, is often the same handful of ownership groups deciding, from very far away, what corners get cut in your neighborhood. This isn't meant to leave you scared and unable to eat out. It's meant to give you the information they'd rather you not go looking for. Here's the other half of the deal. 5 chains that actually earned a spot on the safe list. Tell me which one on the safe list surprises you most. I'll be reading the comments. 5 restaurants that have actually earned the trust people put in them. Not because a commercial told you so. Because customer surveys, independent food critics, and in some cases, the numbers on a franchise's own health inspection record back it up. Every claim in this section comes with a receipt. Let's get into it. Number 5, Five Guys. In 2026, Fox surveyed thousands of Americans through YouGov's America's Top Fast Food Study, and Five Guys came out on top for best fast food burger in the country, ahead of Burger King, In-N-Out, Wendy's, and McDonald's. Consumer Reports has repeatedly placed Five Guys near the very top of its burger chain rankings for taste and quality. Here's the operational reason why. There are no freezers in a Five Guys, anywhere, in any location. The beef arrives fresh and gets used within about 30 hours, an 80-20 chuck blend with no fillers, no binders, no preservatives. The company is still majority-owned by the Morrell family, who started it in a single Virginia location in 1986, and it's grown to more than 1,700 locations without ever needing to cut that corner. The one honest trade-off, because the beef is never frozen, every burger is cooked well done for food safety consistency, so you don't get to request it any other way. That's a safety standard, not a shortcut. Number 4, Culver's. In the American Customer Satisfaction Index's 2026 restaurant study, a survey of over 16,000 real diners, run out of the University of Michigan since 1994, Culver's tied for the single highest score of any burger chain in America, at 78, sharing the top spot with Burger King. The year before, it led the entire burger category outright. This isn't a marketing claim, it's an independent academic index that tracks the same companies that show up in GDP and stock market data. The Butterburger is never frozen, always made to order, and the beef is sourced from family-owned Midwest farms. Most locations even cut their own lettuce and tomatoes in-house. The company is still majority-owned by the Culver family, who founded it in 1984 in a small Wisconsin town. The honest caveat: in 2017, the family sold a minority stake to Roark Capital, a private equity firm active elsewhere in the industry, but the family kept control and has stated no further shares will be sold. Independent, high-scoring, and transparent about the one place outside money did get in. Number 3, Shake Shack. A 2025 in-market study measured restaurant fidelity, how loyal a chain's customers actually are, based on visits per location, across the entire fast casual industry. Shake Shack didn't just win. It won by a landslide, posting a fidelity score of 327 against an industry baseline of 100, the highest of any chain measured that quarter. On the sourcing side, Shake Shack signed on to the Better Chicken Commitment in 2016, an international animal welfare standard, making it one of the first major chains to do so, with chicken that's antibiotic-free and free of added hormones. And unlike most of the industry, Shake Shack will hand any customer a full ingredient list on request, even though it isn't posted online by default, and the company publicly states on its own website where its supply chain still has room to improve, rather than pretending it's already perfect. The honest caveat: that ingredient list, once you see it, still shows TBHQ and soybean oil in some fried items. Real transparency, not a flawless label. Number 2, Raising Cane's. In the same 2026 Oxy restaurant study, Raising Cane's made its debut and immediately posted a score of 79, ahead of most of the pizza and burger category, and closing in fast on category leader Chick-fil-A. Independent review aggregators put Raising Cane's customer service score just behind Chick-fil-A and ahead of most other chains they track. And the sales numbers back up the satisfaction data. According to industry sales tracking, Raising Cane's has now outsold KFC nationwide despite operating a fraction of the locations, purely on repeat customers choosing to come back. The founder, Todd Graves, still owns the majority of the company and still runs it. No private equity buyout, ever. The entire menu is one item: chicken tenderloins, marinated fresh for 24 hours, hand-battered and cooked to order, with no heat lamps anywhere in the building holding food before it's served. The honest caveat: Cane's won't publish a full ingredient list even if you ask, calling the recipe confidential, and independent testing has found soybean oil and TBHQ in the fried items and bun. The chicken itself holds up under every metric that matters. The transparency is the one place they could still do better. Number 1, In-N-Out. Yelp's 2025 national ranking of every burger chain in America with 100 or more locations put In-N-Out at number 1, ahead of over 24 competitors, backed by more than 100,000 positive customer reviews across its locations. In early 2026, In-N-Out was independently ranked California's top employer, ahead of Google and Apple, in a report on workplace satisfaction. The company has never taken on debt and has never sold a single franchise since it was founded in 1948. Every location is still company-owned, and the company is still run by the founding family, with Lindsay Snyder, granddaughter of the founders, as owner and president today. The menu has barely changed since 1948, built on fresh, simple ingredients, with no microwaves, heat lamps, or freezers in the kitchen. There's no significant lawsuit history to report here, no health code pattern, no private equity buyout, no ownership dispute, just a 70-plus-year-old family business that kept doing the same thing well enough that it became the most reviewed, top-rated burger chain in the country without ever needing to change what it does. That's the proof behind all 5. 2 of them tied or led their entire category in an independently run, decades-old academic customer satisfaction index. One posted the single highest loyalty score of any chain measured last year. One outsold a chain more than twice its size. And one is currently rated the best employer in its home state, ahead of Google. None of them are perfect, you heard the honest caveats, but all 5 earned their spot with real numbers behind them, not just a good jingle. That's the list. 13 chains where the ownership chart explains more than the menu ever will, and 5 where the name on the door still means something. You now know more about what's actually happening behind some of these counters than most people ordering there tonight. Subscribe if this was useful. Don't forget to like and share. See you on the next one.